stop shopping there.
Is y'all finna start discriminating us?
And I will continue getting stuff from Target. I will continue to not pay for it.
Woke people are boycotting a company again for no reason. And shocker, they're hurting the people they think they're going to help. We're gonna break down the latest woke boycott that just dropped and so much more on today's episode of the Brad vs. Everyone podcast, my daily show where I take on the craziest ideas from across the internet, across our media, and across our politics, all from an independent perspective. Up first, we gotta talk about a new left-wing boycott that just dropped, targeting, well, Target, after the company announced that they will be rolling back some of their DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion, kind of left-wing identitarian politics stuff that they've been doing as a company. They're rolling that back.
We have more breaking news. Target announcing it is rolling back diversity, equity, and inclusion programs at the company. In a memo to employees, the Minneapolis-based company says it will end its 3-year DEI goals, stop reports to external diversity-focused groups, and end a program focused on carrying more products from Black or minority-owned businesses.
And some very vocal people on the left are not happy about this, so much so that they're targeting the company with a boycott. For example, the leftist activist Nina Turner tweeted that yesterday, Target announced it was cutting their diversity, equity, and inclusion programs, including a program that focused on carrying products from Black and other minority-owned companies. My organization, at Strike for All, is calling for a boycott of Target starting February 1st. The Strike for All tweet announcing the boycott has gone somewhat viral, receiving more than 2.7 million views, saying, "No diversity, no equity, no inclusion, no dollars." They conclude, "Let's pass the test and demand better of the places that we shop." Now, to be clear, there's still going to be plenty of diversity at Target in terms of their employees coming from all walks of life. They're still not going to be discriminating on the basis of race or gender or anything else. That's illegal, and they're certainly not saying they're going to do that. They're just rolling back some of the identity-focused initiatives that they unveiled in 2020 after the George Floyd era, where that kind of stuff rose to prominence, including something where they had a specific goal of getting their workforce to 20% Black, and programs where they specifically included and promoted businesses because of the skin color of the people that owned them, Black-owned businesses in this case. It's not like they're no longer going to be hiring people from different racial groups or no longer going to be carrying brands from minority owners. They're just ending the quotas and the identity-based decision-making, which, if you ask me, is good news and common sense, not some terrible thing that deserves to be boycotted over. But some people are really not taking this news well. There was this one viral video of a dude who's apparently drank a lot of this boycott Kool-Aid, who stumbled into the store and started screaming incoherently at them over this rollback of DEI, screaming at these random low-level employees. Take a listen.
Y'all finna start discriminating us? Huh? Is y'all finna start discriminating us? So y'all telling me if I want a job here, I can't work here if y'all don't like me? That's what y'all telling me? Don't say nothing, officer. Hello? Y'all finna start discriminating us, Target? This what we doing? Is this what we doing? Y'all quiet in this motherfucker. What work is that? I got kids. I need a job in this motherfucker, man. What's going on? Y'all finna follow Trump and his rules?
Something tells me they're not going to hire you now, but it's not going to have anything to do with your race. It's going to be because you're clearly unstable and acting wild in public. I don't even understand what he's saying. Does he think that they're going to be discriminating now? Because, I mean, clearly that's what he thinks. That's not what ending DEI means. DEI refers to something much above and beyond simple non-discrimination or civil rights protections. So ending DEI doesn't mean you're going to start not hiring Black people. Like, maybe this is earnest confusion motivating some of these people, but they seem out of touch completely with what's actually happening, what these changes are, and more importantly, what they aren't. This story actually gets a lot crazier, but first, a quick message from today's sponsor. I don't know about you guys, but I ate way too much over the holidays and gained a few extra pounds. But I'm getting my health back on track, and that's why I'm excited to share today's sponsor, Lumen, which is a great way to increase your energy levels, feel better, and lose weight. Lumen is a device that measures your metabolism through your breath, and on the app, it lets you know if you're burning fat or carbs, and even gives you tailored guidance to improve your nutrition, workouts, sleep, and even stress management. You can also breathe into it before and after workouts and meals, so you know exactly what's going on with your body in real time. And Lumen will give you tips to keep you on top of your health game. Your metabolism is your body's engine. It's how your body turns the food you eat into fuel that keeps you going. Mastering your metabolism will help you get your health back on track in 2025. So if you want to take the next step in improving your health, go to lumen.me/Brad to get 20% off your Lumen. That's lumen.me/Brad for 20% off your purchase. Check it out today. You'll be glad you did. Now, as I do often when I'm discussing a topic on the show, I wanted to peruse social media to see what are people saying about this online. And I noticed a very interesting trend because on one hand, you had some influencers who were promoting the boycott, joking about it or ranting about Target or calling on for the boycott. And on the other hand, you had some people, even pretty woke people, who were like, hold on a second, let's not do this. And you'll notice a very interesting distinction between these people in just a moment. First, here's the delightful video from one woked out white woman explaining how she plans to boycott Target.
Yeah, I'm going to Target still. Of course I am. I love the stuff at Target. I will continue going to Target. And I will continue getting stuff from Target. And I will continue to not pay for it. I'm doing my part.
Yeah, we actually need to re-stigmatize this. Stealing is gross. Stealing is socially harmful. The costs get passed on to other people in your community, all because you don't want to pay for the things you take and enjoy. Shame on you, and if this is actually true, more likely you're just flexing for social media clout. I honestly hope you get arrested and go to jail. But of course, the comment section was like, yes, queen, OMG, because online culture is so cooked. Then we had this Target employee encouraging people to boycott her employer.
So if you haven't heard already, Target is one of the companies that announced in the last couple days they are rolling back on their DEI initiatives. And as a Target employee, that is very disappointing. I wish that I was in a place where I could quit my job immediately, but unfortunately I'm not. But in the meantime, here are some actions that I am taking and things that you can take as well. First, cancel your Target Red Card if you have one. 2, stop shopping there.
It's the audacity for me. This girl literally works at Target, yet is going on the internet telling people not to shop at Target and to cancel their Target cards. Even if you like shared her frustration and were upset about the DEI stuff, which I think is good, they're getting rid of it, honestly, as long as they don't discriminate against people. I think toss all that other stuff out the window. But to actively call for a boycott against your employer while an employee there and saying that you can't afford to quit your job, so you need this job, you need this cash, right, is so incredibly stupid. Do you think nobody's going to see this? I'm not the type to try to get people fired. I'm not going to post this on my social medias and tag at Target or whatever, but I imagine somebody will. And this isn't going to work out for you, babe, and you just didn't think this one through. And frankly, if Target does fire you for this, you have no right to complain. You don't have a right to be employed by a business while actively trashing them publicly online. That is a fireable offense, and it should be. But anyway, I noticed something, and there were some exceptions to this, but I noticed that by and large, the people promoting the Target boycott online were woke, white, liberal women, particularly important that they were white women, or they were people like Nina Turner, who are professional left-wing political activists. So she does politics for a living. But actually, a lot of the videos I saw on TikTok and elsewhere from everyday Black people were saying, hang on, no, don't boycott Target. A lot of us have brands in there from our small businesses that are going to get hurt if y'all boycott Target. This message came from some big influencers, but also just from a lot of everyday people with small accounts. Here's a clip from one Black entrepreneur and pretty big influencer, Tabitha Brown, who is upset that Target is rolling DEI back, which I do obviously disagree with, but she still explained why you shouldn't just be boycotting them and you will actually hurt Black-owned businesses if you do.
I do business all over, just like many other people. And what I can tell you is, if we all decide to boycott and be like, no, we're not spending no money at these organizations. Listen, I get it. And if that's how you feel, honey, I 1000% get it. But so many of us will be affected, and our sales will drop. Our business will be hurt.
Here's another Black businesswoman, Melissa Butler, explaining something similar.
We are the largest Black-owned makeup company in Target. So, of course, we were disappointed, just like many of you, when we learned that they were rolling back their DEI initiatives. If all of our consumers boycott Target, then, that will absolutely impact us. By not shopping in these stores, you are also impacting the hundreds of Black-owned businesses and women-owned businesses and, brown person-owned businesses that are in these stores.
So it's just so ironic to me that not only do we have another woke internet mob trying to start a boycott for no real reason, nothing actually outrageous or bad being prompting them to target a company, they're also probably going to end up hurting the people they're trying to help with their woke white savior crap more than they think and more than they realize, so much so that actual people from the group, Black business owners, are speaking out saying, no, don't do this. And they're not going to listen, of course, but it just kind of perfectly epitomizes everything that's wrong with the woke savior worldview. And you guys do have to understand that in some ways, rolling back DEI is going to hurt not Black people, not LGBTQIA plus alphabet people, not women. It's going to hurt liberal white women who make a career out of this stuff. I wanted to see, what are the demographics of people who are DEI officers, well-paid executives who push this DEI stuff for a living? According to Zippia.com, it's 76% white. It's just 3.8% Black. And yes, it's a majority women. So what you have in these well-paying DEI roles that push identitarian nonsense most of the time is essentially cushy gigs for woke white women. Yet they're being defended as if these initiatives must be preserved if you care about Black people. No, babe, that's not it. That's not it at all. Personally, I do not care at all if we are killing the cash cow of some of these woke white liberal women who've gotten a great gig, spewing identity, toxic nonsense, and cashing out and feeling very important while they do it. Yeah, no. Those jobs should go away, should be abolished, and don't try to tell me with a straight face that it's going to hurt marginalized people if we get rid of those jobs. Because that's not who's filling them. I find the whole story here of this stupid boycott and these people making all these claims about it that are not very well considered and accidentally going to hurt the people that they're trying to help. I find it sad, but also kind of hilarious and just more broadly pretty typical of everything that's wrong with the excesses of social progressivism in America today. What do you guys think? I love hearing from y'all. Let me know what you think in the comments below. And do hit that like button while you're at it, and do make sure you're subscribed if you aren't yet. Up next, LGBT activists are upset at the Trump administration again for no real reason. Here's our friend, the gay news guy, with the latest.
Breaking gay news, Donald Trump just officially banned from the White House, the Capitol building, the Pentagon, all U.S. embassies and government buildings around the world.
Pride community got special privileges.
And from all content produced by the government, the pride flag.
So the short version is that the Trump administration is enacting new policies saying that in official government buildings, only the American flag can fly. Not the LGBT flag, not the BLM flag, not any other flag other than the American flag, and I think a couple specific ones related to military or veterans. Here's more from Pink News.
The Trump administration has reportedly banned pride flags from being flown at U.S. embassies and overseas missions as part of a newly enforced one flag policy. This also extends to Black Lives Matter and other flags associated with progressive or left-wing causes. The order, a copy of which was reportedly obtained by the Washington Free Beacon, was issued by Secretary of State Marco Rubio, who warns that any State Department employee who violates the policy will face disciplinary action, including termination of employment or contract, or reassignment to their home agency. The US flag is a powerful symbol of pride, and it is fitting and respectful that only the US flag be flown or displayed at US facilities, both domestically and abroad, the order reads, with the only exceptions being the prisoner of war, missing in action emblem, and the wrongful detainee's flag, according to the Washington Free Beacon.
Now, some people online are acting like they've personally been hate crimed by this development. I might have to mute the music. I'll try to keep it in, but like this video, this woman literally set up her tripod, recorded herself crying and crashing out because pride flags won't be flying over US embassies anymore. Take a look. It's not that deep, babe. It's really not that deep. It's not that big a deal. And whether you agree with what it represents or not, and obviously I agree with some, but certainly not all of it. And I also question the design of some of these new flags. Like that shit is way too ugly to have been designed by a gay man. Whether you agree with the message of the rainbow flag or the ugly progress flag or whatever it's called, it is a political flag. So is the Black Lives Matter flag. Obviously, we all agree that Black Lives Matter, just in the sense of what those words literally mean, but BLM has become a radical movement. I mean, the original organization literally wanted to abolish the nuclear family. There's a ton of divisive social and political issues caught up in that cause. It makes sense to not put divisive political flags on official government buildings. And we are all represented by the American flag because we're Americans. So I just literally have no issue with this. It seems like common sense. It's not going to adversely impact anyone's lives. I also don't buy that this is like targeting the LGBT community because they're not just banning the pride flag. They're saying no political flags of any kind. So to me, it's a bunch of outrage for no real reason. Now, Trump just did something else that's also sparking outrage, but again, I think makes a lot of sense. He is reinstating U.S. military service people who were fired because they didn't want to take the COVID vaccine. Take a listen to some reporting from Fox News.
Later today, President Trump is going to sign an executive order. He has made good on another campaign promise. He has restated, as of one half hour ago, thousands of U.S. troops with full pay after they were kicked out of the military for refusing a COVID vaccine during the Biden administration.
So again, this seems like common sense to me. We have a military personnel shortage, a recruiting crisis, and thousands of otherwise fit and capable and willing U.S. service people were expelled from the military all because they didn't want to take the COVID vaccine. That is incredibly dumb and unfair. Obviously, with hindsight is 2020, but with what we know now, the COVID vaccine didn't stop the spread, didn't stop the transmission. It's unclear how much it even reduced it. COVID still spread like wildfire, whether people had the vaccine or not. So there's really no legitimate medical case that they had to have this and they should be dismissed from service. I think this was political. The Biden administration was, through its attempted vaccine mandate targeting the labor force, trying to force this onto people and not taking no for an answer. And they seemed to not really value people's personal autonomy or liberty and even be willing to dismiss thousands of capable people from the military to push this agenda. That's obviously wrong, and I think it's great to see these people welcome back and given back pay because they never should have been fired in the first place. But what do you guys think? Are you outraged about this the way that some people are? Let me know in the comments below. Now, get ready to lose some brain cells with me because we're going to react to a woke Instagram influencer who thinks DEI is a slur and that if you disagree with all the woke excesses of the DEI movement, you're just a bigot. Buckle up and get ready to lose some brain cells with me as we enjoy this delightful video from an Instagram activist named Blair Imani.
Just like woke, DEI has become the hot new slur.
It's not a slur. First of all, y'all think it's a good thing, so how is saying it and applying it to you offensive to you then? And it is a real thing that's happening all around us, so it's not some slanderous thing you're saying about someone. Again, like, it's just not a slur, but go off, I guess.
But what is DEI, and are DEI hires real? Let's get smarter in seconds. DEI stands for Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion. The acronym has become an umbrella term for strategies within organizations to account for past and present marginalization due to racism, sexism, ableism, and other forms of systemic oppression. In the United States, the 1964 Civil Rights Act made discrimination based on race, color, religion, sex, and national origin illegal, and DEI programs became the way that these mandates were implemented.
Yeah, wrong, incorrect, fact check, false. The Civil Rights Act was passed in 1964, and it was enforced through various legal and governmental mechanisms, but not through DEI, which didn't exist in its modern form until the 2000s. This is completely ahistorical nonsense. And in some ways, DEI initiatives run afoul of the traditional civil rights movement and the Civil Rights Act because they openly involve race and gender and sexuality-based discrimination in the opposite direction, which if you actually authentically lived up to and upheld those original civil rights laws would be illegal. Framing the modern DEI movement as an extension or the original interpretation of a civil rights movement is so wrong because in some ways it's actually a step away from it and a perversion of the things that it stood for. Ooh, but remember, guys, we're getting smarter in seconds or something.
Legislation that bans discrimination benefits everyone, except bigots.
I mean, yeah, we're all against racial and gender discrimination and the like, but that's part of why we're against DEI. Some DEI is literally discriminatory against certain groups to uplift others. Just to give you one example, the Wall Street Journal just published a big expose about DEI at the University of Colorado, where they openly admit that they were discriminating in hiring of professors so that they were only looking to hire BIPOC professors, Black, Indigenous, and people of color. One faculty member at the geography department literally wrote, "Our aim is specifically to hire a Black, Indigenous, or Latinx faculty member." One version of their application form, which was used in dozens of the hiring plans, asks departments, how will this hire increase the number of underrepresented faculty members in the unit? Example, faculty of color, women in disciplines where unrepresented. So in some cases, in many institutions and places, DEI has turned into discrimination in its own right. But go off, I guess?
DEI programs are crucial, especially in the context of a country that, while founded on freedom and democracy, excluded women, Black people, Indigenous people, immigrants, disabled folks, and more. But how does DEI work? Say that systemic sexism in an office meant that women applicants were not considered unless they applied to be a secretary. The 1964 Civil Rights Act made that illegal. DEI programs were designed to dismantle such biases and create equitable hiring practices, ensuring that women would be considered for all roles based on their skills and qualifications instead of being excluded because of sexism.
Again, this isn't what DEI is. If this is what DEI was, it would be diversity, equality, and inclusion. But it's not. It's diversity, equity, and inclusion. Equity is something meaningfully different and, in fact, in conflict with equality. DEI in this scenario that she's talking about would be mandating that corporate boards have a woman on them or some sort of forced reverse discrimination to try to right historical wrongs. It's not just prohibiting discrimination and hiring qualified women when they're the best applicant. That's what we want. And that's what we want to do by getting rid of DEI.
And no, DEI programs are not about lowering standards or checking off boxes based on identities.
Except for the part where they literally are. In many cases. I already mentioned this to you guys, but I encourage you to read Trace Woodgrain's expose of it. But the Federal Aviation Administration had a huge hiring scandal where they were explicitly disqualifying tons of qualified people with a personality test that made no sense and then giving the answers just to people of color, the correct answers that could get them through so they could increase diversity. If that's not lowering standards and just to check off boxes, I genuinely don't know what is. And you can find this at every level of DEI. Not to say that's what all DEI departments do everywhere, but it is a very pervasive part of what these things have morphed into. And when you suggest otherwise, you're just gaslighting us. You're not making us smarter in seconds.
They're about fixing a rigged system, accounting for systemic oppression, and giving everyone a fair shot. And even with DEI programs, discrimination persists. Candidates with white-sounding names are more likely to receive callbacks. Women are less likely to be promoted. And it is still legal in the United States to underpay people on the basis of disability.
First, to the extent discrimination still exists, that's a problem, and we should work to end it and get rid of it. But the DEI nonsense, the affinity groups, and the quotas, and the reverse discrimination, all of that actually, whether these people realize it or not, and I have to believe they don't, at least people who seem well-intentioned, they reinforce the differences and distinctions between us in these groups. They re-separate us. They re-emphasize these things. They fuel resentment. And in that way, they probably make discrimination a little more common or make it a little more persistent and take us further away from the equality, non-discrimination that we should all want to move towards, which obviously, you know, humans are humans. We're not perfect. We're not all good. There'll always be some discrimination, but we should be striving to get as close to equality as possible. And I think ironically, some of this stuff that this person is defending and advocating for reinforces group divides and resentment and makes discrimination probably more persistent and sticky than it would otherwise be. And the thing about it's still legal to underpay disabled people is a total red herring. The reason there are exceptions for some forms of disability to things like minimum wage laws is so that people who have handicaps of various kinds can still be employed in some capacities where companies want to hire somebody with, say, Down syndrome or something to do something, but are not going to pay them $20 an hour under California minimum wage laws in their city or whatever. That's why those exist. If anything, those exceptions are there to try to foster and promote inclusion, but these people, again, just don't know what they're talking about.
In 2020, many DEI programs came to the forefront of public discourse, particularly following the tragic murder of George Floyd. In some cases, DEI programs received increased attention, funding, and interest. But the increased attention meant increased backlash. Phrases like DEI hire have long been used to discredit anyone who does not benefit from the status quo. This is because in their minds, it's impossible that, for example, a black disabled woman could be the most qualified candidate for a given role, which says more about them than it does about her.
No. The reason that phrases like DEI hire exist is because y'all have explicitly said you're making decisions based on race and gender. I mean, this happened at the highest levels of our freaking government. Joe Biden specifically said, I'm only hiring a woman as my vice president, and I'm leaning towards a woman of color. With his Supreme Court justice that he got to appoint, Ketanji Brown Jackson, he said, I'm only going to appoint a black woman. So if then people call her a DEI hire, that is not them being racist or expressing disbelief that the most qualified person could possibly be a black woman. It's acknowledging that that is literally what happened and what you admitted you were doing. And in the case of somebody like Ketanji Brown Jackson, it's actually deeply unfair to her because she was super qualified. She had an impeccable resume. He could have said, no, I'm choosing from everybody, and then just picked her. And then if people called her a DEI hire, there'd be more of a valid critique to that, to people, why people shouldn't say that. But you can't openly appoint people because of the boxes they check off on the census to things and then call everyone bigots if they refer to that person as a DEI hire. Well, I guess you can, but we're just going to laugh at you, not take you seriously.
In their minds, we need to go back to a time before the Civil Rights Act, before DEI programs, when only well-connected, wealthy white men could be considered for leadership positions, and companies didn't have to consider anyone else.
Bruh, this woman actually just suggested that if you disagree with DEI or you want to roll back with some of this stuff that's been going on in the last few years that's over the top, you want to go back to segregation? You want only white men to get positions? That's not true, babe. That's just a complete caricature of the opposite view, which you clearly don't understand at all.
But that's white supremacy, the false and harmful idea that white Western Europeans are inherently superior and should therefore rule society. It's also patriarchy and any oppressive ideology that says only a select few people are capable, intelligent, and human enough to be included. So it's no surprise that the same people who want to ban DEI programs are the same ones trying to ban us from learning why we needed them in the first place.
I literally have no idea what the frick she's talking about. Nobody's trying to ban you from reading about things or learning history. Like, the Delulu is strong with this one.
And in some cases, they have been successful. Anti-DEI efforts are about restoring white supremacist patriarchal control, not about fighting for freedom.
No, they're about restoring equality of opportunity and non-discrimination and ending divisive woke BS. You can argue against that, but try not to totally strawman all of us, including the many minorities and women and different people who you say you're fighting for who are sick of DEI. Like, you could at least give us the benefit of the doubt of not saying we're literally white supremacists who want to go back to before segregation was ended. Like, come on now. That's freaking ridiculous and offensive.
I've been accused of being a DEI hire before, but I would rather be hired based on my skills in a fair process than simply selected because a supremacist thought I would reinforce the status quo.
Oh my gosh. I feel like we're living in different realities. If your idea of DEI means being selected because of your skills in a fair process, like that's what we want when we want to get rid of DEI. But a university saying we're only looking to fill this role with a BIPOC Latinx professor is not selecting someone because of their skills in a fair process. Like, the math here is not mathing whatsoever. And I'm sorry if people have called you a DEI hire. I don't know what job that'd be for, the full details, so I really have no way of ascertaining whether you are or not, but I'll just say this: publicly displaying complete incompetence and ignorance doesn't help your case.
Smarter in seconds.
More like dumber in minutes that felt like hours. Guys, we react to a lot of woke, insane crap on this channel, but to see such a prominent influencer peddling this kind of thing really gave me brainworms. Like, I definitely incurred some permanent loss of brain cells from watching that video, and I'm guessing you did too. So kudos to you for sticking it out with me. I really appreciate it. Appreciate you guys tuning in. This show is growing like crazy. The numbers are through the roof. I appreciate each and every one of you, even if you don't always agree. If you hear me out and you respectfully share your own opinions, that's all I ask for. And that's the kind of defining rules of this community we're building. So please do make sure you're subscribed. If you aren't yet, do hit that like button before you go. Comment with your thoughts. I do read the comments and I love hearing what you guys have to say. A big thank you to today's sponsor, Lumen. Remember to check them out in the description, and we'll talk again real soon.